Hello, Rise Up Nation. We're back here for another episode of Rise Up in Real Estate. We're right in the middle of season 4 of Rise Up in Real Estate. And I know you guys think I say this every time we get together, but I have got one of my favorite human beings on the planet on our show today. And this guy, I think Mandy and I probably have more love and respect for this human than most that we deal with. And we know a lot of people, but this gentleman right here he's just like a dad to me. I mean, every time I see him, he's got a hug. He's got a word of advice. He's been doing the business successfully for a long time. He's as humble as the day is long. And yet there's a fire burning inside of him that I want you guys to see today. So Jeff Wright with Remax Right Choice. He's the broker on Remax Right Choice up in New England. Jeff, thanks for being here today. I'm honored and actually a little bit nervous to interview you because you really are one of my mentors.
Ted, you are way too kind. You are way too kind because in my world, there's nobody better than you and Mandy. So, let's go after this. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's what we have. I think we have a lot in common in that way. We just look at things the same. Like I love running into you in the gym. Like you told me, Jeff, you told me last time I saw you in the gym at a conference that there's a couple things you do every day, right? And I know we might get into that later on, but it just popped in my head. What is it? What is that? What you told me, what do you do?
Yeah. So every day, and great memory on your part, every day, first and foremost, I've got to take care of myself. If I'm going to try to do anything to take care of my family or take care of our team or be great in the world, I've got to take care of myself. So there's 3 things I do every day, 7 days a week. Some people take some time off. My body and brain doesn't allow that to happen. So first thing I do is if I can go pre-pandemic, I went to mass in the morning to start every morning. When the pandemic hit, I've gone to a lot of times now where I do mass online. Got a mass, do it online. So I do that. I go to the gym every day. I go to the gym because I've got to sweat, and that sweat breaks open my brain and allows me to put myself in a relaxed state of just being able to have my body ready to go and taking care of my body. And then the glue to all of it is during all of that time, I do gratitude prayers and I do prayers for others on my prayer list. So if I do those 3 things, no matter what else happens in the day, I've won the day. I might have been beat up at some place during the day, but overall, I've won the day by just making sure I start the day the way I need to for me.
Yeah, and I'll have to admit, when you climb on the elliptical or on the treadmill at the conference beside me, I'm like, I gotta step it up a little bit. Tell me this. I don't know this about you. Where were you born, Jeff?
Yeah. So I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut,
Okay.
and in a month after I was born in Bridgeport, I moved to a neighboring town called Trumbull, Connecticut. For you and I love the sports world, Trumbull won the Little League World Series in 1989, and the pitcher for the team that was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, Chris Drury, is the general manager of the New York Rangers hockey team. So
That's crazy. And to put it in perspective for time for people, you're still in Connecticut now, right? You still live there.
yes, I still live here. Yeah.
You're still in the
Yeah.
same town, same old town, or you moved?
Yeah. So I grew up in Trumbull, left to go to college, went to West Point, played college baseball, served our great country for 5 years, then moved back home and have been in Trumbull since I started our company in 1987.
1987. That was the year that I graduated from high school. So you're my protege by a little bit, but you just glossed over it. You have a little bit of a love for West Point. You're passionate about baseball, about sports. Tell me a little bit about that. I love that about you.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a family where a dad who went out of high school and played for the Boston Braves, a mom who grew up with brothers that loved sports. So sports was always a big thing. And I've got 3 other brothers who played sports, loved sports, and a dear sister who didn't play it but supported us across the board. So I was fortunate and blessed to be able to win what was called an presidential scholarship to attend West Point, which really means that I didn't, baseball program had a scholarship to give out, different sports teams do. And I was fortunate that they offered to me back in 1975. So I went there in summer of 75. I reported there, played baseball for 4 years. I've been so blessed, Ted. You'll hear me keep saying this over and over, and I say it from my heart, is that it was a huge blessing in my life. What I learned there, I take with me every day. I met who is my wife of 44 years. From that marriage, we have 3 great kids. And on top of that, what it's done for my life overall has been unbelievable. So West Point is still a big part. I started a nonprofit there for the baseball program with another individual, 2 other individuals, and spend a lot of time there today.
That's pretty cool. I know you've talked recently about you took a group of Remaxers up there to watch. Was it what football? Was it a football game that you guys went to go see with Carl and those guys?
Yeah, we might have played Coastal Carolina. School, you
Oh
ever
yeah,
hear
I
that?
forgot about that. Yeah, I'm trying to forget that. Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit of Myrtle Beach stuff going on. Yeah,
Yeah, so
so
you had a group come up.
yeah, so I've got season tickets, and there's typically 6 home football games a year. And I tell everybody that you don't have to like football, but you've got to go for the experience. And it's just so, yes, I had some Remax friends and attend that game. It was great.
That was good. And then tell me a little bit about your involvement now with the baseball team. I remember seeing you still throw a pitch or two at a pool a few days. I remember this on. You got to find this guy on social media. We'll talk about how you can connect with Jeff in a minute, but tell me about the pitcher contest that you do.
Well, so one of the things that's been such a gift in my life is being able to know all the players in the baseball program. So I haven't always had this level of involvement, but for the last 7 years, I literally have tried to be that big brother that you talk about, mentored all the players going through the program. I want them to understand, Tad, that what they're going to do for our country, the importance of it, they're going to be our leaders protecting our nation. And I want them to know how great they are as humans, and the fact that there's other levels inside of them, both for the baseball field, but most of all for life. So 5 years ago, Army graduates on a Saturday, and they've won what's called the Patriot League Championship in baseball. So on a Saturday, they graduate their second lieutenants. On a Tuesday, they go to the NCAA tournament. On the Monday night for 5 years, we've had 100% of those graduating baseball players that are going to go play an NCAA tournament or are now second lieutenants take an hour and 20-minute drive from West Point to Trumbull, Connecticut to have dinner at our house. And the tradition has always been that this 66-year-old guy, they want to see if I can still throw. So after dinner, without warming up, the catcher brings his glove, I stand, we throw 5 balls, and somehow miraculously, I still can throw. I've had 2 full hip replacements, but I could throw a football today 40 yards on a line without warming up, and I can still throw a baseball all day. So that's the baseball story.
I remember seeing that, and must have been this year when this happened, this transition that you're talking about. And I didn't realize the timing of it, but what a patriotic, emotional, spiritual, deep time for those young men going through that. And I will remember seeing you by the poolside. It looked like you were at a cookout and you're in some casual clothes, and the looks on those guys' faces when you threw that ball the first time, they were like, wait a minute, he's got what we thought he had. And that's pretty dang impressive. I could tell one of the young guys kind of wanted to throw it as good as you. He said, but I don't think he wasn't going to challenge you. He didn't have the courage to do that.
Yeah, for everybody that couldn't follow the video, but you must have picked up on part of it, is the captain, one of the captains, the shortstop said, Mr. Wright, what are you doing tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock? We've got a spot free on the bus. They were leaving for the NCAA tournaments. And as he said it, he's looking at one of the pitchers who didn't wasn't didn't have the livest arm of all the guys on the team. So anyway,
Yeah, that's funny. So where did you like? I'm fascinated by. Of course, I'll get to real estate. This is why my editor always tells me I need to have this podcast in the self-help section, not really in the real estate section, because we'll get there. But how I just look at you as such a grounded human, well-rounded, generous, giving, selfless. Where did you learn that, Jeff? Have you just learned it over time, or were your parents instrumental in that? Was West Point part of it? What was it?
yeah. So I think first and foremost, by far, it started at home with my parents and how they lived their lives and how my father and mother were, father was president of Little League. They started a boosters club at the high school. They always had people who, if they didn't have a place to go for Thanksgiving or Christmas, they were coming to our house. Everything, when I was a freshman at West Point, my mom was 100% Italian. She's up in heaven. And my dad was 100% Irish. She would bring for the football games enough meatballs and sausage grinders that anybody knew that if just find Mr. and Mrs. Wright and there'd be food for them. So anyway, my whole life I've been attracted and surrounded by. I had a high school football coach who was the national football coach of the year, who was a big influence in my life. Got to speak at his funeral. I had a principal in high school who was just unbelievable. I got to do his eulogy. They were just people in my life that were just really impactful. And they all had this kindness. They also all had this leadership ability. So I think just throughout my life, the West Point experience to this day, I'm attracted to those sort of folks. I mean, we only Tad in our real estate company, we only have only four rules that we ask everybody to live by. And the four rules are integrity and ethics. Always got to do the right thing. Number two, you've got to bring positive energy and positive culture because everybody in our office deserves to be treated great. And nobody should have to go home and not feel great about where they work. Our third rule is this full-time commitment to being great. We just believe that the real estate industry is a lot of people that are part-time and a lot of people that really aren't doing service to the folks that they're asking to hire them. So we really go after being great professionally. And the fourth one it's a simple one word, it's just called kindness. And if you can't deliver that to your world, to your family, our team, your clients, we're not better than anybody, Tad. We don't want anybody to think we're saying we're better. We just know the lane that we want to be in. And if you fit in that lane and if it excites you to be in that lane, then come on board, come on board.
I love
So
that. So
it's,
that you've arrived at that over years. Tell me your real estate journey. Like right now, you're the broker owner of Remax Right Choice. How many offices / agents do you have now in your organization? And tell me the beginning.
yeah, so now we have we have location wise, we have 9 different locations, and don't let that be misleading because we've acquired some small boutique Remax offices. So we've got 9 locations. We range agent count anywhere from 110 to 115, 120, 125 over the years. So somewhere in that area. But most of all for us, Tad, we don't look at agent count and we don't look at office location. We're really try to model what I think one of Remax's biggest value propositions, and that is the amount of business we do per agent.
Mm-hmm.
Our team has put us in a position to be for 10 consecutive years the number one transacting firm of all the firms in Connecticut, not Remax firms, but all the firms. And that's by design. I mean, it's totally by design that we really want people to care about doing great for themselves. And at the same time, Ted, we don't come in and ever say to someone that there's a quota. There isn't. What we want to know is what their goals are and see if we align together, if it's a win-win. And if we do, then let's go after it, because we've got some people who built our company that they're in retirement mode. So they're not going to do the same amount of business that others who are trying to reach the rooftops.
Do you mind if I ask you what that per agent number is, or what it was in 2023? Do you mind?
Yeah, so we're calculating right now. So I would tell you the lowest we've ever had has been 16. The highest we've ever had has been 31. So we've been between 16 and 31. And and it's literally, I would love for you to ask me the question at the end of next year, because it's gonna be a real focus this year to see how we build back up from that 16, 17 level. I really want to see us to get into the 20s. So
Yeah.
uh,
And what is your average purchase price in the residential aspect of your business? Do you know that? Just so to compare what we do here.
yeah, and so I would just tell you, we're in very different markets. We're in markets where the
Okay.
average price in a home could be 500, 600,000, or we could be down to 300,000, like in the city of Bridgeport. So we'll do anywhere from very low, meaning we could do a 50 or $100,000 sale, and we'll do up to a couple $1 million on the residential side. On the commercial side, we've had 15, 20 million, $25 million sales transactions with a residential agent doing commercial real estate. So we'll
Yes,
talk
sir.
about that.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there for sure. I love that. And you started in real estate when and how? Did you just start your own boutique and you made the switch over to Remax eventually? Tell me that story.
Yeah, so the story is in 1980. So a year after I got out of West Point, I'm at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I always had this very deep entrepreneurial spirit. I saw an article and an ad in a newspaper, and we had newspapers with ads about attending a real estate course at a local university. I had no idea that it was a licensing course, no idea. I walked in, it was being taught by a doctor of education, Dr. Marilyn Lair, who happened to also own a real estate brokerage. And she came up to me at the end of the course and said, "I'd love for you to come work for me." And I thought it was one of the strangest questions, because I'm in combat fatigues, combat boots, second lieutenant bar, that I'm showing up at class, coming out of the field. And she said, "You're in a military town. You're going to know a ton of people coming from West Point. At a minimum, it'd be a great thing for you to learn how to buy for yourself. So you work as much as you can." I got a huge bug literally at night, and on the weekends I made more money than I did as a captain in the Army, and started the process. So when I went back home in Connecticut, you have to work for another firm for 2 years before you can have your own brokerage. So I worked for another firm, and then in 1987 opened up my own firm.
It's pretty cool. And you were telling me off of air a few moments ago that this kind, gentle man that we see has a fire burning inside of him to be number one and to provide excellence. I can see it in your face. I can hear it in your voice. And you mentioned to me when you were choosing where to land for brokerage sake and for brand sake, even though this has never been a Remax commercial, I want you to tell my listeners what you said to me a minute ago, why you, after a long process, you picked Remax.
Yeah, so what I had said is, just to understand for full context, for the first 9 years, I was an independent firm, and I saw us losing opportunities that I didn't think we should have lost, because our agents were as good as those other agents that were in big brands. And so I made a decision after it happened one more time that I was going to go, and I interviewed every major brand that existed. It took 6 months. I wanted to meet everybody, and I wanted to figure out what I thought was the best decision for our team, not for me. Because if I'm asking folks to be part of the team and I'm a team captain, then it's got to be best for everybody. So I went and interviewed everybody, all the KW, Century 21, Caldwell Banker had some independents back then you could buy. I interviewed everybody. And I settled on Remax for the same reason I would settle on Remax today for me, for Jeff Wright. First and foremost, that everything they talked about was wanting to be number one. They wanted to have the best agents be number one. And obviously, since 1999, we've been number one every year in transactions per agent. But that's only part of the story. The second part of the story was it was an agent-centric brand. It was at back then, and even still today in my market, some of the bigger companies, their name is the only name on the sign, and the agent can be a rider. Well, when Remax said the agent's in the center of the sign and you can't have your last name as the name of the company because it's all about making sure with our agents, that really appealed to me. The third thing that appealed to me that won't be a surprise is when I learned of who their charitable initiatives were, Children's Miracle Network hospitals, and their support of the military, and at that time, Komen Race for the Cure for breast cancer research. I look at us, Tad, I look at your beautiful family. I just say, how blessed are we? Like incredibly blessed. So we have to be great, not just in the real estate space, but we have to be great community citizens and great in giving back. And we've got to lead that. And so it had for me the most important boxes to check off. And I tell everybody that ever recruit, no brand's perfect, nothing, none of us humans are perfect, but it had the fundamental things that were most important to me is that I wanted to make sure that we cared about doing great business. Like we go to a doctor that we really need when we're in trouble. I want people coming to us because we do great business. I want us giving back. I want us to be part of more than just ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. We're lucky to have you, and I think I want all of our listeners to take note of what you just said in the last 10 minutes. That was really valuable stuff. So I like asking this question to someone like you because I have a feeling you don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about necessarily the past or the market or whatever. You just do your thing. But give me the crystal ball, Jeff Wright version of where you think we're headed in 2024. You probably know I've already listened to Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, every other coach, every other leader about what they think's coming. But from your perspective, you've been through a lot of markets. You've seen Remax go through a lot. Where do you think we're headed in 2024 and 2025?
Yeah, and so I'm a really, really big student, Tad. It's one of the separators for me is I was not an A+ student at West Point. I struggled with the academics, some of the people I competed with, but I believe no matter what your journey is, we need to be A+ students in our profession. So I study the markets. I study what people say. I listen to podcasts, multiple podcasts a month about market predictions and what's going on. A couple of things I've learned do that, and I share with our own team. We do a market update once a month, no matter what, 12 months a year. We do for 30 minutes that I want them to understand what I think is going on nationally and what's going on locally. So the couple things that I would tell you is I think 2024 for the pros, for the people that know how to have built a business, don't have fear about getting on the phone, have taken great care of people, are willing to learn more things. I think it can be a terrific year in 2024 for the pros. I think it's going to be that way because I still believe there's going to be huge imbalance from an inventory standpoint. So I think what we're going to have is we're going to have supply issues. So those that know how to control the sellers, control listings are going to do incredibly well. We're still going to have some affordability issues that although there's predictions that interest rates are going to drop, and I say from their mouth to God's ears, please let all that happen. But I believe no matter what, that literally all the things that are there says there's still huge demand because we've got a generation of household formation that is way short on opportunity to purchase. We've got new construction starts have been off since 2008. Foreclosures are down as low as the world could ever ask them to be. And our equity strength in the real estate build is unbelievable. So when you put all those things together, it just points to it's going to still be a strong year. But Tad, I think one of the things we talk about with our team, we just did this last Thursday. We do a weekly thing called Rockstar Training for a half hour. And we talked about the things that they should be telling sellers and buyers, and especially buyers. And I'm just going to leave you with two things without going through a half hour call. Is that since 1991, real estate has appreciated the United States over 300% since 1991. The second thing, and I want the buyers to know this, because no matter what they think about interest rates, no matter what they think about what's going on, you've got to get in the game. The second reason you've got to get in the game that we tell people, I want them to tell these buyers to get them off the fence, is the difference in wealth between somebody who's a renter and somebody who's purchased is literally the average right now for a renter wealth, depending what you look at, somebody is anywhere between $12,000 and $40,000 worth of wealth. Somebody who's owned is somewhere now closer to $400,000. We've just got to tell those stories. And the last comment I'll make, and someone's said this, Tad, this is not Jeff Wright's humor. I just not quick enough to figure these things out. But people say, marry the house and date the rate, get in the game. And this is all I say to our people, help them understand we can all refinance at any point. Just get in the game, because prices are going to continue to go up. Now, real estate's very local, so I can't talk about South Carolina, but I sure wish I bought 5 years ago some waterfront property in South Carolina. That's for sure. I wish I did that. But in Connecticut, and I think across the country, it will be a very good market, unless something happens beyond a pandemic, a war situation, something way beyond our control. Those things we can't plan or think for. We've got to deal with the stuff we can control. And most of it starts right here. What we can control upstairs, and what we learn and what we put in there is what we can control.
Yeah, it's related. I like that you said the pros will find their way. It's the way it happens almost in every area, but pro being someone who's willing to work hard, have resilience, not take no for an answer, a student of the market like you are. I love that. Your agents are so lucky to have you. I know you're lucky to have them, right? But I mean, it's reciprocal, but for them to have a leader, I'm sure they recognize it. I mean, you're a gem, and I'm glad we had this call, because that's a great few minutes of expertise right there.
Ted, I want to just make one comment back to something you just said, though, too, is that so just before this call, Sue O'Shea and I were talking about, we've got our kickoff sales rally, and we're calling people to see who's hasn't RSVP'd yet. And one person said, just tell Jeff I'm too busy, that I probably can't make it. So why am I telling that? I'm telling you that that person's just finished his second year with us, and he did over $300,000, came to this country at 13 years old and couldn't speak English. So when we say pros, and you did a better job, I'm not talking about a pro that's been in the business 10, 15, 20 years. I'm talking about the pros that have the desire, are not fearful, will go after doing the right things. Those will be the ones that will have success. If you're not going to change and adjust, you are going to start to fall behind. You're already falling behind. So anyway, pro is not defined by years. It's really defined by just what they're able to do.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for clarifying. That's perfect explanation. Guys like you don't love this question, but I love asking it, because it sheds a little bit of light on what we all know. What do you feel like is your superpower, Jeff? If you only had one thing, and I bet my listeners could pick it out because you've been so authentic on this call, but what would you say is your superpower?
Superpower as an individual, or superpower as a leader?
That's a good question. Why don't we do as an individual? Let's do that.
Yeah. So as an individual, I'm going to call it something that you can't find this on the internet. Um, I'm going to call it something I call 11G. And 11G is the number 11 and the letter G. And it's my belief. It's my belief, starting with myself, and I believe with Tad, and I believe with all of us. There's another level of success or greatness within that we have not yet found, or we have not opened up, or we've not released to the world. So it's that belief, it's that belief system that, you know, and there's so many things with it, Tad. I mean, there's so many things go around it, but my belief system is that the world says to us, you know, a 10 is the top level. A gymnast with a perfect score in the Olympics is a 10, or doctor says on the scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain? Why 10? Why do Tad and I have to be limited by 10? So when we realize we surround ourselves by others that we can learn from, that we can model, that we can experience, how can we not get better? Like came back from our Premier Broker Summit, being with you and being with Todd Stock and all these great folks. I came back recharged. I came back better because of what I learned. And so 11G is first and foremost realizing there is no limit. It doesn't have to be 10. And the G part people will ask me about. And if you think about the letter G, it's the first letter in some of the most important words, influential words in our life. So it's God, and it's great, and it's gratitude, and it's girl and guy, and grandma and grandpa, and it's grit, and it's grow. So for me, I just look at saying, if I think about the things I need to focus on and control, grit has been all my life. I've competed through trying to outwork others because I wasn't the fastest athlete and I wasn't the most gifted in this. And even today, I'm certainly not anywhere near the best broker owner. The only thing I know how to do is try to outwork everybody or try to do the best I can with what I've been given. So all those things and the gratitudes, my prayers every day. And God, I know that I can't do any of this, all the blessings without all that support. So it's just that 11G is what fuels me. That's the superpower, if you will, for me, myself. And I'm going to tell you one other thing just about that. When I was 17, I was asked this yesterday, literally 2 days ago, by a owner of a series of gyms throughout Connecticut. And he made a comment that led to this discussion. And I said to him, can I share something with you? And he said, what's that? He said, I know when my mind changed, the shift was done. He said, you know, I was 17 years old. You were 17. I said, I was at West Point and I was in the first summer and I was struggling. You're in Beast Barracks, it's called. It's like boot camp on steroids, and people are yelling at you and screaming at you. And you've come from being the top athlete in a high school, and 3 weeks in, you got invited to first go to certain clubs to experience stuff. And I went with a roommate to a meditation club. And the guy said, had you ever been there before, ever meditated? I said, I've never done it in my life. He said, I just want you to do this. Think of 2 words or 3 words as a mantra that you'll repeat over and over again, that you believe in your heart and soul, that will help you in your life. And my 2 words were I can. And those 2 words have been the guiding light as I look at not just me, but I look at all of us. I look at Tad, I look at Sue, I look at my team, anybody that's in our world, is to help them know if they believe that they can, they're that much closer to changing their life or changing their situation or doing something better, whatever it might be. So I teach by the mistakes I've made. I teach by things I wish I knew earlier, but I try to share the things that have really been just a game changer in my world.
11G. That should be on the internet, by the way. You can't find it in Google, but you know why? It's in your heart, and I love that. If I don't have a shirt that has 11G on it by the end of this week, I'll be surprised. I need that. I love that, Jeff. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have a book that's your favorite, like one that sticks out in your mind that has meant something to you over the years?
Yeah. For everybody to understand, I'm not this huge reader that reads stuff. So I'll read summary snapshots when somebody says it's a great book. I'll listen on a podcast to something. But the book that I remember when this happened, Dave Liniger went on stage and said one day to us at an R4 convention, the book that changed his life was Think and Grow Rich. And I listened to that, made a mental note. And then soon thereafter, Brian Buffini said one of the books that changed his life was Think and Grow Rich. And it literally, that book, I went and read that book. And to this day, when those West Point baseball seniors graduate, give each of them a gift. We give them two things. I give them the book Think and Grow Rich, and I give them a diary. And I tell them the 11G story. I tell them that Think and Grow Rich is not to put riches in your pocket, but to control your mind and your belief system on what's capable and what's possible. And the diary, to not only diary when you have great things that happen, but when you have things that created pain that you wish won't happen again, or that you can influence others on something that didn't work out the way you wanted. So for me, the book that's outside of the Bible, Think and Grow Rich would be the book.
That's amazing. Good one. So time goes by so fast with you, man. How do you do that? I just looked at my clock and I'm like, what in the world? Tell us a few things, like tell us where we can find you, Jeff. Like, I know some of my listeners are going to want to reach out. I'm not saying they're going to call you, but what are some things that you're involved in that they need to match into? And I'll put these things in the show notes for the listeners so that they can click on and find you wherever they need to find you.
Yeah. So I would tell everybody that one of my weaknesses in life, one of them, and there's many, is my entrepreneurial ADD. I see all these opportunities and I see all these things I want to help people in life with. And that's how 11G came about and whatever. So one of the things tied to the real estate world is that I've been told in real estate that you can only be, when I first came into the business, I was told by two broker owners, do you want to be a residential agent or a commercial agent? And I didn't understand why you couldn't do both. And in my journey, I've ended up doing both and teaching both to our team. So as part of my give back in my world, as I don't want to leave this earth or leave this business with that music still in me kind of thing. So I wrote a course called Commercial Real Estate for Residential Realtors to help guide people through 4 major case studies, all of which were deals that I did. Everything's there, step by step, what's there. And then that's not enough for some people. They want to go deeper and they want to have live training. So I started what's called the High Risers Club for companies that don't want to train or don't know how to train their own agents, or agents that want to do it individually. And then I started a podcast that Commercial Real Estate for Residential Realtors that interviews residential agents who have done great in the commercial space and brings on experts. And so much of what I do is in the mindset world, and the guy that's helped my firm so much, Ed Schultick, I bring him on once a month. So anyway, you can find all of that at coachjeffwright.com is where you can find all of that.
Coach Jeff Wright, and it's WRIGHT.
That's it.
Coach Jeff Wright. How appropriate is that, Coach? Coach, that's amazing. I have this thought in my mind. Please connect to this man. I can't stop thinking about the fact I have an older son that's 21, and he's just getting ready to graduate from Liberty in May, in 3 years. I told him to slow down. It took me a lot longer than that to get out of college, but that's because I liked it so much. But as you're talking, I'm going to get him to come to R4 with me. Are you coming to R4?
I'll be there for sure.
Would you please sit down and have coffee with me and my son?
Oh,
I'd love for him to sit with you, and he's not at West Point, but he's at that point where he's getting ready to venture. He's heard it all from Dad. I just appreciate your input in that young man's life. And I know the people on this call, you guys are listening to he doesn't like this, but because I think genuinely, Jeff, as I've listened to you, because of your dedication to the simple yet profound things in your life, Mass, gratitude prayers, your physical fitness, and your mind, you are a living legend in a way, in my mind. And I don't do this to everyone. I'm not trying to put you on a pedestal you don't deserve or you don't want to be on. But what a treat it has been to talk to you, my friend. It really, really has. And we could talk for another 2 hours, and we're going to do that. And of course, anything we can do here in South Carolina or at all to help you, we're available to do that. But thanks for being you. Thanks for sharing so openly today. You've been an honor to have on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you, my friend. And I say this from my heart. Like, there isn't a couple that, like, I don't think does a better job personally and professionally than you and your bride. So it was an honor to be on this with you guys, and look forward to doing whatever I can and be an honor to sit with your son. Really would.
That's great. We're going to make that happen. I don't know how I'm going to get him to R4 in the middle of his last semester of school, but I'm going to do it.
Great.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, hey, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Rise Up in Real Estate. If you liked hanging out with us today, please find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Rise Up in Real Estate. Also, follow us right now on your favorite podcast host to hear more episodes. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. And until next time, let's do each other a favor and all help each other rise up.